Hi, welcome to another edition of A Closer Look. I'm Linda Fontaine. Today's guest is Jules Corriere. She is the writer and director of the Yarn Exchange. Welcome.
Thanks, Linda.
Tell us, Jules, what is the Yarn Exchange?
The Yarn Exchange is a radio show. It's a monthly radio show that we perform in Jonesboro, Tennessee, live at the International Storytelling Center. And what's really fascinating about this project is it is a monthly scripted show based on the stories of the people from this region. People from Jonesboro, Johnson City, Kingsport, all the way into Southwest Virginia and Eastern Kentucky.
Well, that's interesting. How long has this been going on?
We're now in our 6th season. We've been doing this 6 years monthly, but we grew out of a bigger project. There was an original play that was created in Jonesboro nearly 7 years ago called I Am Home, and it was based on the stories of the people of Jonesboro from all segments of the community, young and old, black and white and Hispanic, and we gathered these stories, put them together in a script, and they were enacted by a large-scale cast of about 75 people or so, as a way to bring the community together across barriers of age and race and religion and socioeconomic status. And that experiment worked. It created a community out of these people. And once the play was over, this group of people said, well, just because the play's over, we don't want to break up and go off to our lives like we were before. We've really gotten to know each other now. So they decided they wanted to keep sharing their stories. They wanted to remain a community, and they also wanted to do something really important, which is connect stories with other really important organizations that are in the community. So every month, they decided on a monthly radio show so that they could continue getting together, and every month they decide on a theme. Every month they go out and gather stories connected to that theme, and we often bring in a different organization like the farmers market or the veterans groups, things like that in each of our shows.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's a great thing to get to do, and what I'm really enjoying about it these days is now that we've been going for a little while and the audiences are bigger than ever, there's no stopping us. We're starting to branch out in other directions. So I'm beginning to train people in collecting stories, in writing and adapting stories for radio, for television. We've got a TV studio that we work with kids to do TV shows for plays, and even like magazine booklets based on these stories. So anybody who wants to be involved has an opportunity to get involved in this program now.
Well, since you've been doing this a while and the word's probably gotten out a little bit, is it easier for you to find stories? Are people coming to you with stories?
Oh, every week. Every
Okay.
week I've got people. I work through the McKinney Center in Jonesboro. It's at the old Booker T. Washington School, which was the old segregated school in Jonesboro. It was once a place that kept people apart. Now it's a place that brings people together through the arts.
Oh.
And so we have people coming into the McKinney Center all the time to collect their story. I've got a digital recorder there. We are also collecting stories on video now as well. But all of the stories that we collect, they don't just, end up in some filing cabinet somewhere. We transcribe all of these stories so that future generations can use them, and we also use them in the radio show, and they'll also be in the collection for use when we put together the new plays and the different artistic expressions that we're doing with this new Jonesboro Story Initiative.
Well, will you be able to put those together, maybe sell them, like as a CD set or something like that?
That's one of the things that we're talking about right now. I know that we are right now in the process of putting together a magazine of stories that have been collected from some of the real elders from the Jonesboro Senior Center, people in their 80s and 90s who remember the Great Depression and who fought in World War II, and even a couple who eloped when FDR was president, and they're still married 73 years later. So stories like that, just really extraordinary stories of ordinary people, are what the radio show's about, are what's going to be in these magazines, are what's going to be in the plays that we're doing. And I'm really excited that the energy behind the original play that we did a few years ago has grown to really develop a community that is still growing.
Wow, that's great. How many people are involved in this, or on your staff, so to speak, or do the the programs?
Okay, well, on the staff, we've got a sound engineer, a Foley operator, because we do these radio shows like in the old days, so shaking sheet metal for thunder. We've got a stage manager, an accompanist and music director, and an editor. So it's a relatively small production team, but as far as volunteers to make the whole project happen, we've got a lot. We're training a lot of people that are now going out into the community. So for the first 6 years, they've been coming to us to tell stories. The community's been coming to us to tell stories. Now we're getting to the point where we've got this story brigade that's going out into the community gathering stories as well.
Oh, that is neat. That sounds so cool. Now, when can people listen to these stories? When are you airing?
Our show performs the fourth Monday of every month at the International Storytelling Center. It's about an hour-long show, and we always have a musical guest. We often have some special spoken word artist guests who come onto the show and perform a piece that's thematically related to what the show is. So it's about an hour long, and they can just call the Historic Visitor Center for tickets. We've been selling out all of our shows this year. In fact, we had to turn people away at our last show.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so reservations in advance are really recommended if you want to make sure that you're guaranteed a seat.
Okay, and can we listen to this on the radio?
You can.
Since it's a radio
yes,
show?
you can. We have our live show that's on Monday.
Okay.
The fourth Monday of the month. The last Wednesday of the month on WETS 89.5,
Yes.
our local NPR station. They air our show at 8 p.m. prime time.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. Yes, and you don't just have to tune in on the radio. We also stream on their HD channel 1 at the same time as well. So I've had relatives listening to us at 8. It's 8 p.m. Eastern is when it airs, but they'll tune into it at 5 o'clock out on the West Coast and stream it online. So that's really great because we've got a lot of people that are from the Jonesboro area who come from other places, and that way they can have their families across the country listen.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. So it sounds like it's growing all the time.
It is, and a wonderful aspect of it is because people from around the country and really around the world can tune in and listen to this, it's really doing a lot to capture and really showcase our heritage and our culture of the people in this region. Because while the stories are very universal, stories of love, stories of fighting for their country, stories of hardships, they're very particular in how these hardships were overcome in this community. And the very stories that come from this community with the heart that resides in this community.
Wow, it sounds like you're doing such an incredible job to keep the stories alive and growing in our area. I love it that we see these books now that people write about Kingsport or Bristol, Johnson City, and all these historical things. And I think people are growing more towards embracing our culture and our history and wanting to know more about that. That's what I'm gathering. Even one of my sons, he loves it. Well, he's a history major. We graduated with a history degree, but he loved those books I'd give him for Christmas about the history of our area. And he said, you know, it's really a cool area. There's a lot to tell and a lot to learn about it.
There really is. There's so much. And I think it's especially important to really begin to know what our roots are these days, because on all the little devices that we have, we're getting information from all over the world. We also need to get some information from who we are and where we come from and the people who made us who we are.
You're right. We have a rich heritage right here. And a lot of times, especially with the millennials now, we keep thinking we need to look. There's bigger and better here and there, other places, go explore. But sometimes we need to just look in our own backyard and explore what we have right here.
I think
and
so
to
too.
keep it alive with bringing interesting stories like what y'all are doing is helping.
It is, and it's really showing that you don't have to go to other places to discover and experience remarkable people and remarkable things. The stories that I gather will blow you away. I mean, it's just incredible. The stories of very unassuming people who say, oh, by the way, I was at the Battle of the Bulge, and I was a medic at the Battle of the Bulge. Oh my gosh. Or, yes, I thought I was going to get in trouble, so I left a note before I went to elope. because I didn't want to get in trouble with my mom, so I left
I
a
didn't
note.
want to get in trouble.
I didn't
so
want to
I
get
left
in
a
trouble.
note to get eloped, you know. That's hysterical. That's great. I wish there was a way that you guys could spread the word even more.
We're looking for ways to do that. We've got years worth of our radio show now recorded, and I'd like to see them up on a podcast station somehow,
would be
so there would just
great.
be the whole series of different shows. And every month we have a different theme, but there are some themes that we keep coming back to that have proven popular. Every March we do our Strong Women of Jonesboro in honor of Women's History Month. So we go out and we gather the stories of female leaders in Jonesboro and the region. In February, we do the same thing for African American leaders. That, you know, we're getting to learn a lot about the national African American leaders during Black History Month, but we also think it's really important to focus on our own local leaders and the things that they have done for us here in Jonesboro and you know, Kingsport and Bristol, this whole
that's helped
region.
our region grow
Absolutely.
and become the wonderful region that it is today, and how we evolved to get to where we are. I think that's fantastic.
And another focus that we've got right now, trying to get the stories out even further and capture the stories, we're working with veterans a lot.
Oh, that's neat.
They've often been a quiet group, because they often don't talk about their experiences, but we want to let them know that their experiences are really important, because there's a lot that we can learn from them.
I agree 100%.
So we've been getting stories from men who fought in World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Some of the Iraq soldiers are more reticent these days, but I think by watching the Vietnam veterans, for instance, sharing their stories and their difficulties, it will help them come forward to be able to talk about and help us understand, because this is all about understanding each other better.
Let's pick up on that right after this. Let's take a break, and we've got a lot more to talk about in just a minute.